Hey guys, this is episode 2 of Noodle Time. Welcome. Here with me is Tony Rubio.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. Well, welcome to episode 1 officially.
Yeah, technically, I would say episode 1.2, but yeah, like it's technically episode 2 still. But yeah, it's been a very interesting week with the Dynamo and Dash. A lot to talk about this week. Obviously, we got the Dash. Really interesting opener. Obviously, like towards the end, it was pretty odd, and of course, we're going to talk about the performance as well. We also got the Texian Derby, the preseason finale against FC Dallas, and which was a pretty bad scrimmage. We'll get into that, and we also got the Dynamo season preview coming up right towards the end of the show, and just a little bit of housekeeping. Obviously, we got the Fox in the Box newsletter every single Monday if you want to check it out. That's a newsletter I do every single week if you just want to keep up with all the news regarding the Dynamo Dash and anything that goes in the Houston soccer scene that of significant value. It's a pretty good newsletter if you guys want to check it out. And
yeah, kind of bad, you know.
Yeah, Tony's a hater, and yeah,
I'm just kidding. Subscribe right now.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Yeah. and other than that, we also are hosting the a fantasy league. Obviously, the podcast is not going to have a fantasy league by itself with all the fantasy leagues out there, but the one I will be mostly focusing on this year is the one we always do every single year, which is the Dynamo Subreddit Fantasy League, which is the one that I've been holding for almost the past 6 seasons now, and it's pretty good. We'll usually get a ton of people from the subreddit, and it gets pretty competitive. So I encourage you to join. I'm also gonna go ahead and attach the invite link to the show notes, so you guys can get to join up until Friday, which is the when the season starts for Dynamo. And yeah, with all that said, we're gonna go ahead and start talking about the Dash season opener. Obviously, with the first point of discussion, we have to talk about being the issue regarding Sarah Gordon, the Chicago Red Stars defender. Obviously, what happened after the game was pretty unacceptable. Something that could have been easily prevented, but still happened. And if you guys aren't aware about what happened to Sarah Gordon, essentially, she was, after the game, like a ton of the Dash players were meeting some other family members and all the other relatives close to the sideline section, close to the field of play, which still wasn't supposed to happen because of COVID-19 protocols, but still happened. And the main issue being that when her boyfriend approached the field of play, her boyfriend was pretty much told by one of the security guards at the stadium to essentially back off, or he will could be arrested, even though the security guard, Sarah Gordon, let know that the family members of the other players were also close to the field, and they happened to be white, and they weren't also approached by security, which looks pretty suspicious. Also, the Chicago Red Stars assistant coach, he also witnessed these actions happen, and it looks pretty bad, honestly. And
yeah, I mean,
but I feel like the worst part of it was pretty much the release that the Dash sent out. Like, I feel like that release by itself didn't do much justice in the sense of explaining everything thoroughly.
Almost would have been better not to have a release in a sense, just to make it seem like there was going to be some more investigation. But I mean, we don't, Dash Dynamo fans, nobody wants the players, especially the fans, to feel unwelcome when they come to an away game here. So we send all our support to them, and we hope there's a clear resolution to that, because like you said, it's unacceptable. And we're all about fostering. I feel like NWSL in general is about fostering acceptance to all creeds and colors and sexual orientation. So it's kind of sad to see that happen so early in the season, or I mean, at any time at all. And I don't know. I think it's just something they need to take on the chin and accept and say we're going to do better, because it's no way that should be happening, especially threatening arrest to somebody trying to talk to a player. Like, how is that even a possible course of action, you know?
Yeah, obviously that was uncalled for. We hope that they both, Sarah Gordon and his boyfriend, get an apology from the Houston Dash. Like, from the release, it didn't sound like an apology to me, and we just hope for the best going forward, and hopefully there's a clearer solution to this and for this to not happen again.
Hey guys, this is future Andres dropping in. So about an hour we stopped recording the second episode. The Houston Dash did send out a second update on the issue regarding Sarah Gordon. Essentially, it's a much better statement compared to the first one. They're essentially changing their stance on the matter and getting on a full investigation about what happened. And thankfully, Sarah Gordon is gonna to get an apology, and of course, it's not gonna be enough until the person responsible is taken care of, and we'll see what happens from here. But I'm thankful that the Dash are pretty much committed to it, and they changed their stance on the matter based on the first statement. And alrighty, and that's gonna be the update for this one. But now on with the show.
Like Tony said, like, each game, especially Houston Dash games, are pretty welcoming. Like, this is the first time I've seen this kind of activity going on, and I've been to like a ton of Dynamo and Dash games, and hopefully this doesn't happen again. And like I said, hopefully Sarah Gordon gets the apology she deserves, and the Dash actually do the right thing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully that gets resolved, but why don't you bring us into a little bit of a summarization of the Dash season opener this weekend, Andres? I mean, it was a 0-0 draw, but let's get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty and what really went down with that.
Yeah, so it was a scoreless draw. Obviously, from like a neutral standpoint, it could be like pretty boring in a way, but essentially the second half, I would say it was way better than the first half. The first half didn't have like much action going on. Like, both teams, the Dash and the Red Stars, were still trying to figure each other out, and there wasn't like a clear rhythm going on. And so yeah, the second half like saw much better soccer in action. Both teams found their rhythm, and they were able to get to each other's final third and back and forth, and they created their own chances, but at the end of the day, they weren't able to find the goal. And it was interesting for me because the Dash, like, not only did end up adapting to the Red Stars style of play, but also they were also missing their 6 key starters. Obviously, Jane Campbell, Chappie, Rachel Daly, Christy Mewis, Nichelle Prince, and Sophie Schmidt. Those being like really important pieces on the Dash roster, and essentially like big parts of their championship season last year. And that was one of the things that impressed me the most. Obviously, holding on without them, and mostly just a roster filled with new faces, and it was just impressive, honestly. Like, considering that it was the Chicago Red Stars, which aren't a pretty solid team either, but they're pretty formidable. And even though they were also missing starters, but not as many as the Dash.
Yeah. I mean, I think definitely it was promising to see Lindsay Harris come in and start over. I mean, in place of Jane Campbell, since she was with the national team. And I mean, definitely almost, I guess, man of the match performance back there to keep us 0-0 after the Red Stars were coming in pretty aggressively in the second half. But I mean, we were missing Rachel Daly, like you said, Christy Mewis, and Nichelle Prince up top, which, I mean, is a huge chunk of our attacking unit. So, I mean, personally, it's super promising to see the team stay like so well defensively in terms of a unit. And I mean, I'm not worried at all for when the rest of the ladies come back and hopefully the goals come back with him as well.
Yeah, and just to expand just a little bit on that, they essentially James Clarkson is expecting to pretty much be the roster to be like this, in the sense that there are gonna be times where the main starters are gonna be gone for international duty. So there's a good chance we're gonna see this roster again. Obviously with a few tweaks there now and then, and depending on injuries, of course, and hopefully those don't happen. But yeah, like it might be something like that. I was also impressed. I was not impressed, but interested to see that he wasn't rolling off with a 3-player backline, which was a thing he was focusing on mostly during the preseason. But I felt like the 4-3-3, it was a pretty good call in his part, only because Chicago were pretty threatening, and I doubted that a 3-player backline will fix their issues, if any. And it was a pretty good call to stick with a 4-3-3, and yeah, man. From that and from there, like obviously they've been players. One of the new faces being Gabby Saylor and Lindsey Harris, that stood out for me the most in this brand new roster, with essentially a new face for the team. Obviously Saylor she didn't have like a ton of clear chances, but her distribution and vision of play were outstanding in this game specifically. And Lindsey Harris also, she had like a pretty good game. Obviously, she's filling up the boots of Jane Campbell. She's considered one of the best goalkeepers in the league. Obviously, one of the best penalty stoppers. And I was impressed also because I found out that Lindsey Harris is the first Dash goalkeeper to earn a clean sheet on her debut, which was an interesting stat for me when I heard that. So kudos to Lindsey for getting that stat. Honestly, like over Jane Campbell, that's pretty impressive.
Cheers to new beginnings. And I mean, like you said, that's something that we could expect a lot more throughout the season, with international clubs being a regular thing, especially in comparison to the MLS and WSL players and teams are missing those international players for such long periods of time. I feel like, other than this year, MLS is going to be Gold Cup and all that's kind of good stuff missing. But, it's a really tough part of MWSL for them to deal with these rosters. So, like you said, you really need this spine of players to back them up. And, we can probably expect some more signings from the Dash later on in the season. I know we had just acquired the rights to the forward from Tigres, right?
Yes. Vasquez, I believe, but yes. I'm guessing they're still working on a deal with her. Because it was only like their rights for her in the league, but it's pretty safe to assume that she's gonna come in at some point eventually.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to bring in one of our Dash super journalists, and maybe even Edson Ochoa from down in the valley to talk about her, since he's a Tigres know-it-all. But I'm definitely looking forward to covering the Dash more, and personally learning more about the Dash. And obviously I've always been a fan, but really trying to get into following them and knowing everything about the team, especially this coming NWSL season. So definitely trying to learn more from Andres and from all the wonderful podcasts and journalists we have out there covering the Dash.
Oh yeah, like hopefully we can bring in like Haley from actually the Dash podcast. She's way more knowledgeable than us, and also I'm also a Dash fan that is also starting out but learning pretty quickly about the team, and yeah, like obviously learning about the Dash is pretty fun, especially since they haven't been around as long as the Dynamo. But it's just interesting to learn about the Dash and also women's soccer in general, and how essentially the city and the country handles women's soccer compared to other places around the world, and obviously the United States being the best place for women's soccer. So yeah, we're just looking forward to for like the growth of the sport. And the next game for it, they do play the Oil Rain like on the same day as the Dynamo season opener. So that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun day.
Dual screens right there.
Yeah, dual screens like forever.
Dual screens and double fisting beer. No, just kidding. I'm gonna be working.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
not gonna be doing that.
It's so disappointing because like they decide, like both Dash and Dynamo decide to play on the same day as my brother's birthday. So it's gonna be hard for me to watch both games since I'm gonna be with my brother all the time. But
nah, bro. Sorry to your brother. You're gonna have. If you guys go out and celebrate, you're gonna have both the phones right there, both matches.
yeah, like just to keep the spirit though, I'm gonna like watch both replays at the same time. So it's gonna be fun.
Yes, sir. Well, I mean, in terms of I guess just to end off on the comments about the Dash and women's soccer, it's just interesting to see. I mean, your comment about America being the prime spot for women's soccer in the world right now, but I mean, you're right in comparison to a lot of countries, but definitely interesting to see like the exodus of players going to Europe lately, especially to England, where they're really, I think, ramping up the salaries, maybe in comparison to NWSL players. So that'll just be interesting to keep an eye on, and hopefully the Dash don't end up losing too many players to Europe. I know we had Rachel Daly over there on loan, but hopefully we don't lose them permanently.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad, but fingers crossed.
Yeah. Fingers crossed Mr. Brenner's listening and opens up the pockets, you know?
Open the pockets, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like open the pockets. It's just like a flying out, you know?
Yeah, it's a meme from SpongeBob with Patrick. You know, Patrick's wallet.
Yeah.
A piece of lint and a paperclip.
Yeah. Like the little coin.
Well, anyways, that's pretty much our the Dynamo and Dash's pockets in a nutshell. But let's move on and dive into the Dynamo, man. It's a can of worms, but you know we have the preseason to cover in general. Now that's the first episode. We have the season preview. You know, maybe highlight a couple of the big games, what to expect to go over the roster, and then big season opener this Friday against San Jose, against Almeida's team. So I mean, what do we have to expect there, man?
Yeah, it's gonna be a long preview. Obviously, we have to address the last week of preseason. Last week they first played OKC Energy. They beat them 2-0, but obviously that's not the most important game. The most important game being the scrimmage against FC Dallas. It was pretty horrible in the sense that almost nothing worked, and we'll go ahead and try figure out what happened.
I mean, let's go ahead and cover that catastrophe. Maybe then just highlight over a little bit of preseason, and we'll go into our season preview and what to expect. But pretty much with FC Dallas, neither me nor Andres were able to be there since, as you guys know, we both live outside of Houston, and me in the great amazing city of Dallas, and Andres in Austin. But we were able to watch through the stream, and yeah, it was a tough one, man. This was kind of what I mean, I shouldn't have this mentality as a Dynamo fan, but you know, since we're just used to the pain and the losses throughout the years, I was almost not looking forward to La Copita because I was afraid something like this was going to happen, and especially right before the season starts. Like, I mean, I don't want to put our players in a little cushion and a little bubble, but it's like, man, why do we have to play FC Dallas in the last game before preseason? Like, at least as fans, that really puts us down in the dumps. But I don't know how now is the big thing to see is how the players are going to react to that kind of loss. The good thing that obviously we know we don't have the most extensive roster, but at least we know that we're missing three of our center backs, and we currently have our backup left back as a starting center back. So that's at least some solace. But at least in this game, you know, I didn't think our defense was the biggest problem. I think our midfield was a little bit more scary. And, you know, Sam Junko obviously had that terrible mistake for the third goal.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think they should keep with him for the starting game against San Jose because he's seemed to show pretty strongly this preseason at center back, maybe even better projected than what he was doing at left back. So, you know, get these losses and get these silly mistakes out in the preseason is my opinion. For those that you don't know, FC Dallas beat Dynamo 3-0 at BBVA Campus Stadium to take La Copita. What is it? The biggest preseason tournament in Texas or something like that? Is that what it's called?
The best little cup in Texas.
Yeah, there you go. See, I don't even know it, man. I don't. It's just pain.
It's all good.
I don't even want to remember.
It's so good. It's just a preseason tournament, but still. I was thinking about the scrimmage a lot, and I pretty much have it visualized that because it was preseason, it was good that this happened, and also bad that this happened, in the sense that it's good because we know what the issues are. Like we had a pretty vague idea of what the issues were, only because we've only seen one stream of the entire preseason of Dynamo leading up to the scrimmage against FC Dallas, but obviously bad because the game was pretty boring in a Dynamo fan standpoint, and pretty much like anything that Dynamo were trying on that game was pretty much almost meant nothing really. They were having like a hard time going up. They were barely converting any chances, like any clear chances, and pretty much like any ball that went through midfield, like it was picked up almost immediately. And FC Dallas had pretty much had us figured out in that scrimmage. And
I mean, yeah, for sure. Like going back to last season, when our focal point of the attack was Darwin Quintero, which we'll go into more about what's coming for this season with him. But I remember I was in the game. I went to the game where Dallas hosted Houston over here, and they were just double teaming Darwin the heck out of the game, and that was pretty much, generating zero attacking chances for the rest of the game because of that. Now coming into this game, I couldn't really tell if Dallas was going with a 5 in the back or if they were kind of shifting in and out. I think they were going with 4, but the reason is because I think they were playing with one of their center backs as a right back, Bresson, if I'm not mistaken, because they sold Brian Reynolds to Roma, as we know, and then they had Ryan Hollingshead, who usually plays fullback, in the lineup along with John Nelson. So it was confusing, but regardless of that, it's almost like Dallas was a double-edged sword, pretty much shutting down our wings with Fafa. Fafa honestly had absolutely zero chances. He was locked down the whole game on the wing along with Pasher, and then what the best chance we created was probably a Rudy shot in the first half from outside the box. I can't really remember us really creating anything else. Obviously, we should have had a penalty in the end of the second half, in my opinion, but obviously that doesn't even matter.
Oh yeah, it was a handball, but obviously we're not talking about that. It's meaningless at this point, but
yeah.
But yeah, like going back to the point of midfield pretty much being shut down, it was pretty much going back to the time, like back in the mid 2010s, where the Dynamo, since they were pretty much unable to like go past midfield to the final third, they essentially just like crossed the ball over to the flank just to see what would happen. Like there was essentially like no activity, no production or anything, any clear chances. So it was pretty worrying. But like going back to what I said initially, like it's good that this happened. Like we still know that it's midfield is still an issue. And going back to like after the game, during the press conference, and obviously like Tab mentioned that the players, like they had the players to get the ball to the back of the net, but like midfield is still being an issue because midfield would help feed the forwards, and we weren't there for like the scrimmage at all against FC Dallas, and it was pretty worrying.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, or even if you watch the match, we had Vera, who usually plays the 6 for the Dynamo in years past, Derek Jones, who we just brought in from Nashville, who pretty much can play the 8 or the 6 in the midfield, and then Joe Corona, who I would say is probably a little bit more of an 8. That was our midfield 3. And we had Derek Jones sitting as the 6, deeper in front of the center backs, and Vera and Corona in front of him, trying to implement Tab Ramos' high press. But honestly, Derek Jones was, I think, we can't judge him too much just from one game because we know he's a promising player. We've seen him play for Nashville and for the youth national team. But he was really shaky in front of the center backs when we already have Junko back there who is inexperienced. I don't think we can afford to start there. Jones maybe right ahead against San Jose, who we know kind of do the whole man marking, also high press system. So I don't know about you. I kind of want to see Vera maybe drop back to the 6, and maybe we can ease Jones a little bit back into it because I don't think we're gonna have Fuenmayor, Figueroa, or Ethan Bartlow. Ethan Bartlow's out on concussion protocol, as for what I understand, and Fuenmayor has been injured most of the preseason, and no word yet on Figueroa, but he just came back from national duty with Honduras. Safe to say, I think he's 39 years old now, so no surprise if he's carrying a small knock after all the travel and preseason that has had to have done at this point.
Yeah, like we might have to go to a point where Minor starts, which is not ideal. Also because he's more likely to get injured past this point, past his age. But obviously, like we all want him to do his very best, but at the same time, like we're running thing on options in the back line, so that will be pretty worrying heading to the season.
I mean, yeah, like if anything happens, I know we've talked about this a lot before, but we believe Zarek Valentine's had experience at the back before in center back, so we have Bizama and Hoffman that can play right back if necessary. If Zarek needs to stop and drop into the center back, but as we've seen in preseason, Tab Ramos has been playing Boni and Garcia at center back just because we're so thin on options.
Yeah,
which is something I really do not want to see happen in a game.
That was like I've never seen that before, and it was pretty worrying. So hopefully I won't see that again.
So yeah, well, the good thing, I mean, usually you want quality over quantity. That's no knock on any of our players, but the thing is, if Vera Jones and Corona isn't working, we have Darwin Seren, we have Memo Rodriguez, we have Darwin Quintero. We have so many options right now in the midfield, while everybody's healthy in here. So if one thing works, I'm sure Tab has something else up his sleeve. But in terms of if Tab is going to throw everything under the rug and do something new before San Jose, I don't count on it. I'm going to assume we're going to see most of the same lineup against San Jose because, as we know, Tab's very much stick to your principles, stick to my style of play kind of guy, which, in Tab we trust. But, not to get so negative right before the season starts, that's yet to come to fruition with the Dynamo. So all we can preach is patience up to this point. I don't know about you.
No, pretty much. It's gonna be pretty much hope for the best. Obviously, Tab is trying to figure out what to do with this interesting roster and with all the players that he could bring in, and yeah, like it's pretty worrying. And we can go ahead and expand that. So we're gonna go ahead and transition to the Dynamo season preview, and I just wanted to go through essentially all the moves that happened on the first team.
Wait, a busy one.
It was extremely busy. Obviously, towards the earlier part of the off season, but over the course, like over the next few months, like not much would happen other than a few moves now and then. And obviously, the players that were let go during essentially their options were declined, being Kyle Adams, Victor Cabrera, Cody Cropper, Tomas Martinez, Ronaldo Peña, Michael Salazar, and Wilfred Sahibo. And after that, the Nico Hansen's contract expired. A ton of people were assuming that he was gonna get renewed, since they sent him like a bona fide offer for him to stay and for him to not be eligible towards the re-entry draft. But at the end of the day, not much happened. I'm guessing that was just like a precautionary move, just in case a team was going to acquire him.
Well, yeah, now the Dynamo got some sweet gam from that.
Oh yeah,
I think 125,000 going into next year from Minnesota. But I mean, bygones be bygones. But Hansen's been lighting up the preseason so far, at least for Minnesota. I think he's going to have a great chance to be part of a big playoff team there. So hopefully we don't come to rue that. The Dynamo are very heavy on winger options this year, but I'm not too worried about it. Hansen had a lot of opportunity this past year, and although he showed flashes, it wasn't consistent enough. And at the end of the day, we don't know what happened behind the scenes, if he rejected that offer or if the Dynamo just kind of made a lowball offer just to, like you said, pick up some sweet gam from Minnesota.
Delicious gam. Yeah, it's always delicious. And yeah, like other than that, like there were like the two biggest losses I would say of the season were being Manotas and Kiki. Kiki being the good loss and Manotas being the bad loss. And obviously Manotas, he's the club's second all-time scorer and in all competitions, which is a pretty big deal. Just sitting right behind Brian Ching by, I'd say, about 9 goals, if I remember correctly. But he was he was somewhat close to getting first in his time in Houston. And obviously we're going to miss him. And Kiki, we're not going to miss him. I felt it like it was a fair trade in the sense
it was just not a match for us. And
yeah,
I mean, I wish him the best. Knowing the Dynamo, how our trades usually go in the past, Kiki's going to be an MLS best 11 center back this year for Montreal. So
yeah,
stay tuned on that.
Yeah, and all the MLS pundits are going to be all over Montreal when they clinch the last playoff spot in the East, and it's going to be funny.
I mean, can we just go back on when we first signed Kiki from Palermo, right? From Serie B in Italy. I think, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, later on, or you, Matt Jordan said Kiki Struna was going to come in and be one of the top MLS center backs in the league. Right? Is that a comment that he said?
I hope that's not true, but it sounds like something like Matt would say, so it might be true. So
I hope it doesn't come true. I hope it doesn't come true. Because low key, I mean, I don't support any other team other than the Dynamo and MLS, but I always kind of vibe with Montreal for their jerseys and just kind of their their overall vibe. But they dropped the Impact name. They're changing their colors, and now we have this weird relationship exchanging players with them. Kyoto, Struna. I think I'm building a little bit of an enemy here with Montreal, so they better watch out.
Yeah, the crest is pretty ugly, but they're building a pretty good team.
It's a snow hexagon, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, like the hexagon's pretty sexy though, and Montreal on the other hand has like a snowflake circle, which is so ugly. It's horrible.
They ruined all the beauty they had there. So
yeah,
we know a lot about rebrandings over here. So, but why don't we go into now the players that we brought in to replace those losses and change this team?
Yeah, I was gonna go ahead and get into that, but obviously I was gonna go ahead and address the loans of Aaron McHugh and Marcelo Palomino.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they were loaned, I would say fairly recently, like a few weeks ago. Aaron McHugh going to Charleston Battery and Marcelo Palomino going to Charlotte Independence, both teams in the USL Championship. We're expecting them to see a ton of time over there. I recall Marcelo Palomino playing, and I think they got battered like 9-0 in the preseason.
No, that was Charleston, bro.
Oh, McHugh. Okay, yeah.
I messaged some Battery fan, and I was looking into Charlotte Independence and the Charleston Battery just to see how McHugh and Palomino will stack up for this season. I mean, as you know, USL Championship doesn't start until May 1st, which is not that far away. But it seems like both rosters are not that full yet. I don't know. USL teams are kind of saving it till the end. They have a lot of trial lists and all this. But I think it's safe to say that both will be seeing a lot of time. From what I talked to a Charleston Battery fan, that their captain was playing center back, and originally he was playing either fullback or midfield. So maybe now bringing in McHugh, that will allow Charleston to move their players back to where they originally were, and hopefully it's a big year for both of these guys. Dynamo was on this youth movement now, but we've yet to see too much fruition into the first team from this newer crop of guys. So really hoping to see a big push from McHugh and Palomino this year, and hopefully bring them back to the first team next year. Because even if they're not starting, we need that kind of youthful depth And McHugh is, I mean, if McHugh has a big year, he's definitely in a position to come back and who even knows win a starting position. For those of you that remember, Dynamo used to have a homegrown center back named Sebastian Ibiaga, who we had on the roster. I think we loaned to RGV. Ended up cutting him, went to San Antonio, won USL Defender of the Year, and now he's over there at NYCFC as a backup, but he starts a lot of games as well. And I mean, I think that's a big loss. So I really hope that doesn't happen with McHugh. If he ends up having an amazing season, I really want the Dynamo to try to integrate these guys back in, not just for the hometown feel, but especially for the roster mechanisms, because we need those homegrown contracts for the cap space, you know.
Oh yeah, like I'm still salty about Ibiaga, honestly. Like I was hoping he could.
I'm sure he is too, bro. Yeah. I'm sure.
Like I was hoping they would give him more time, but they decided not to move on with him, and it's pretty disappointing. But oh well. And yeah, the pipeline is gonna be developing within the next few years under Paul Holliker. I feel like we're in a better direction compared to the last. Like ever.
Than ever.
Like, yeah.
Than ever. Well, it's pretty much gone from nothing to, from some throwback names, Francisco Navascobo, some of those.
Like
who was Alex Dixon, throwback to all these homegrowns of the past.
Yeah, like we've barely found like successful products. I would say like Memo and Tyler Derrick, outside of what happened without Tyler Derrick, obviously, but yeah, like their track record is pretty not good, and obviously through Paul Holliker and pretty much all the directors and coaches are working. Yeah, hopefully Boniek soon.
Starts at home. Tom Byer right there. That's gonna take us to the top.
Yeah, culture of development hashtag.
Yeah, hashtags right there.
Yes.
But I mean, pretty much, hope the best for those guys. But we still have our weird relationship with RGV, talking to our contacts down there. It sounded like there's still supposed to be a player or two getting loaned to RGV, but I don't know. Last time I talked to somebody down there, they were kind of skeptical about that going in. I don't know what the relationship is like with the Dynamo and RGV right now, but I would hope it's not bad enough to where we can't send down at least 2 or 3 guys to just go spend the whole season down there. Maybe enough of bringing them back and forth, but personally, I would like to really go see. I would really like to see Danny Rios and Juan Castilla get sent down there and just play the whole season. I have to earn their spots over there, but at least they'll be in contention to start because Danny Rios, I don't think is going to get a shot this year with all the backlog of wingers we have, and then Juan Castilla, who's I think still 16, right? 16, 17. It'd be nice to just at least have him loaned to RGB for the whole season.
Yeah, I think his birthday's coming up, but I got on the notes that he's 15. But yeah, I would say 16 is a good guess for now. And yeah, just moving on through like the homegrowns and everything. Like the Dynamo did sign a couple of homegrowns during the offseason, and obviously both Juan Castilla and Daniel Rios were brought on last year during the season, and which were technically the first signings of this offseason, only because their deals for the Dynamo started this year, back in January. So they're technically the first additions of the offseason. And after that, Ian Hoffman will come in. Like he's like a defender midfielder kind of player, and
I think he's a right back under Tab. Seems like.
Yeah, on their Tab, I feel like he can be playing fullback instead. And we'll see what happens with him. Obviously, it's a position that we're gonna be short of, so it will not be safe to assume that he will be loaned or not. But we'll see. Like obviously, he's still pretty young, so there's a good chance he might be. But we'll see.
Yeah, and then just from the offseason in general, we had quite a few. I think 4 or 5 academy guys with the team, but I think the most notable ones that most people can agree on, even though we haven't seen much, is Jathan Juarez and Tieran Sargent from the academy. Both seem to feature quite a bit for the Dynamo, especially in that last game against OKC Energy. And from what I've heard, both are really good, both committed to college deals already, but it'd be pretty interesting to see if there's maybe a deal on the table to bring them in for this year. or bring him to RGV. Especially Jason Juarez. We heard a lot about him down the left side. We don't really have that much full back depth, so it'd be interesting to see if there's an offer on the table for those guys.
Yeah, they might stay in college, but the Dynamo are going to have first dibs to sign them onto deals whenever they get off school. But we'll see what happens. I still think they're going to go to school first, and yeah, which is pretty interesting considering that they've been seeing a lot of time in the preseason. But we'll see what happens from there. And other than that, they did bring in Mateo Bahamic, and which is I'll say one of the rawest players we have, in the sense that they still need more time to develop, and which is an interesting signing considering based on what we've seen so far in the preseason, and obviously some highlights from games when he was loaned back to Argentina while he was not playing with us last year. And I would say I would still like to give Mateo Bahamic more time. I don't think he's a starter yet.
Oh yeah. No. I mean, we barely have seen him play. We know the talent's there, but it's a huge development curve. We have to remember he came from the second division. We have to remember he's still 21 years old, pretty young, and usually we see kind of a year. Hopefully, it doesn't take that long, but kind of a whole year to maybe fully adapt to this league and the play style. But the Dynamo spent a good amount of money on him for us. I think 1.6 million or something like that. So it's definitely our biggest signing of the season in terms of cash value. So really hope the chances are given at least.
Yeah, and this is the part of the offseason where the meme of starting 11 forwards would start, because past that point, they would permanently sign Ariel Lassiter from his loan from Alajuelense back in Costa Rica, and they would also sign Fava Pico, Tyler Pasher, and Maxi Rudy. And yeah, that was an interesting point in the offseason, because there were a ton of forwards coming in, and which we assume it was kind of a system that Tab was trying to apply in the sense of pressing forward, and most likely trying to switch those players around the field, and which was pretty interesting also, because I still recall Papa Pico getting listed on the press release as a midfielder, so it was pretty weird. And yeah, it goes to the point of Tab trying to switch players around.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see the personnel there. I don't know how many people we're going to lose to internationals this summer. I don't think too many. Maybe Lassiter and Figueroa, right? Pretty much. I don't really imagine we'll lose anybody else unless maybe Boniek. Maybe he's still to Honduras. I don't know. Darwin Seren. But I think our team will be mostly intact. Some big things to note there. We just signed Adam Lundqvist to a contract extension. He's making a good chunk of money there. I like Lundy. He's been a good servant to the club, but hope to see more from him this season still. I think he has more to show. I hope he steps it up defensively and offensively, because I feel like he kind of is known for his speed and his attacking prowess, at least in his time in Sweden. But I think we're still wanting to see a little bit more of that. But just a question for you there, Andres. Who is going to be your Dynamo's dark horse player to watch this season? Who are the fans not expecting as of yet, but might have that breakout season for us?
That's a pretty good question. Just based on the fact that there's a lot of variables going on heading into the season, and I'm still thinking in between. I would say Papa Pico, or I would say Tyler Pasher. I can see Rudy doing significant damage to other teams, but I'm still not sure. It's pretty hard to tell what's going to happen with this team. Yeah,
I feel like the whole team is dark horses, right? We're all kind of underdog. I know teams like to say, nobody's trusting us, nobody believes in us, but literally that's the Dynamo 100%. Nobody believes in us.
Pretty much.
We don't even believe in us.
The rebrand is pretty much a a horse in the shape of a hexagon. That's really our mantra going into this year.
Something like that, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, but if there's ever a time for players to want to make a name for themselves, I definitely think it's this 2021 Dynamo team. Let's hope we see a DP come in this summer. I don't know. For me, I think a DP striker, a DP midfield number 8 is what we need. But apart from that, I'm really hoping to see, as everyone says, Derek Jones step into maybe a starting role this year with the Dynamo and really show why we brought him in from Nashville. And obviously everybody's worried about the center back position, but personally, in the time of this podcast that I've been thinking, I'm most worried about the striker position, Andres. We have so many forwards, like you said, but I don't know, forwards we have. I think right now on the depth chart it's Maxi Arruti number 1, Christian Ramirez number 2, and I think if there's a third striker there, it's probably Ariel Lassiter. But man, it's like, where are the goals going to come from this year?
Yeah, that's a fair point in the sense to be worried for the forward core. I still think the basically the worst position to, in the sense of to think better about to improve essentially is just the back line. That's like my biggest worry, but you have a good point to pretty much be worried about like the forward core and if they're gonna actually produce goals, even though Tab has been pushing or essentially telling everyone that this is gonna work. We have the players, we just have to keep working on it, and I hope that's the case. But you have a pretty good point.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that brings up the point now. I feel like in seasons past, it's okay, maybe our defense isn't good, but our forwards can carry us, our attack can carry us. This year, for me, if our defense doesn't do the job, our attack doesn't do the job. Because I don't think this attack is carrying anybody this year, in my opinion. Maybe for a game or two, but I think the defensive unit as a whole is what really needs to be focused on. Honestly, once Fuenmayor and Bartlow are healthy, and Figueroa, I think I'm a lot more optimistic in that sense. I think there can be a huge improvement. We can already see Tim Parker as a captain really leading this back line, which is something we really needed for a long time. Marco Maric coming into his second season, and Michael Nelson hot on his heels, who everybody knows is super talented and waiting for his chance. So I think this season is really all up into the defensive unit, and hopefully our forwards can produce to win games. They're 1-0, 2-1, that kind of thing. But the question now is this roster good enough to sneak into the playoffs this year, Andres? What is your honest opinion there?
Well, MLS is unpredictable. Obviously, that's not to say that the Dynamo don't have a pretty competitive roster to go by this year. So it's they've also got the issues with the backline going on right now, in the sense that if they miss 1 or 2 more players right now, they're in big trouble. And obviously, with what we've seen with the midfield situation with FC Dallas, that doesn't convince me either. So I feel like we could see some certain improvements over time if everything goes well for Tab, in the sense of injuries and actually putting the ball in the back of the net, unlike last year. We could see a more positive results compared to last year, but I really see us barely missing playoffs this year, and compared to like a lot of MLS pundits putting us in like last place or close to last place, I feel like that's also a fair assessment on our current situation, but it's still gonna be dependent on time and how the team develops.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame them too much, honestly. Even though we're fans of the team over here, we can't blame them too much for putting us back there. For me, I don't see this team making the playoffs right now either. Right now, obviously, I want us to. I want to be proved wrong, but right now, I think I put us around 10th place. Maybe a bit of an improvement over last year. I mean, 4 wins for the whole of last year is a pretty low bar. But let's hope some of those bouncing balls, some of those calls go our way this year, and we definitely just hopefully see an improvement in the team as a whole. But playoffs or bust. I think it's a really tough situation to be in.
Yeah, and obviously compared to last year, there's gonna be more games. There's not gonna be an MLS is back tournament, and the season won't be cut by 3 to 4 months like last year. So there's gonna be a lot more games for the Dynamo to get results out of, and I like to be optimistic. I like for them to have better road performances, but like I said, it's pretty hard to tell what's gonna happen with this team.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope for the best. I feel like this is kind of the same mantra we have every single year, but
yeah,
we'll see what comes through there. But I think one of the make or break things that we have to look forward, or that we need to look into for this season, is the whole thing surrounding Darwin Quintero going into this preseason so far. I mean, we can't take too much stock into preseason, and also this has been one of the most untransparent preseasons that we've seen in years past from the Dynamo and just from MLS in general. We really have not had too much insight into games or to rosters. But from what we've seen, it's kind of like the Dynamo have been playing a first team of mostly the same guys throughout the preseason. And then kind of, they do these 45-minute halves after the game where they play the guys that were on the bench. And in these second 45 minutes, they're always playing what seems like the second string guys. But the second string guys have been Memo Rodriguez now, Christian Ramirez, and the number one person that we need to focus on is Darwin Quintero, who, as we know, he's getting up there in age. I don't know if he's 33, 34 years old now. But, I mean, he was one of the best attacking midfielders / wingers in the league last year, and definitely carried us to the small successes we had. And as of now, it seems like, I don't know if Tab's putting him on the back burner for his high-pressing system that he wants, as he can be a liability there. But can we afford to bench him? From what Tab's press conference after the game, I know you mentioned that Tab said that Darwin was it seemed like maybe Darwin was injured. What do you have to say there?
It was pretty much in the sense of he wasn't fit enough to play 90 minutes. I'd say that that's pretty much what Tab said, and I feel like we could see him in the season opener against San Jose, even though he didn't start that many games in the preseason based on what we could tell so far. Like, obviously there's only been out of all the preseason games, there's only been 2 that were streamed, and just those 2, not even counting the scrimmages that were played after those, and it's pretty hard to tell, really. Like you just mentioned, it's been pretty hard to cover the preseason, especially during the pandemic, and especially since the team hasn't been doing a pretty good job covering preseason on social media or their own website. They've been posting their the match reports, obviously, but other than that, it's not been pretty transparent, because we still don't know we didn't know all the starting 11s. We didn't know all the players that came in and out of those games, and it's been fairly inaccurate, really. And well, we can just go with what we've seen on the scrimmages, and there might be changes heading to the season opener against San Jose, which is what we're going to talk about right now. And the season opener against San Jose, I think it's going to be pretty wild, in the sense that San Jose is a wild card, in case you guys don't know, they play some soccer, some really interesting soccer, in the sense that they force their players to pretty much do whatever they want, obviously under the direction of their head coach, but they have a lot of freedoms, and which is pretty both concerning and assuring for the opposing team, but still, San Jose still get the results they want sometimes, and it's pretty interesting.
I mean, we can't forget. I mean, they were in the play-in game for the playoffs, which was a bonkers game against Kansas City last year. And I mean, yeah, like you said, San Jose plays the man-to-man system that Matias Almeida, brings from Chivas, which is what makes for some pretty interesting games. For those of you that don't know, San Jose finished 8th in the Western Conference last year, so right on the edge, and they barely got knocked out by Kansas City. in that playoff game where they lost in penalties. So
yeah, they almost made it through. I remember watching that game against Kansas City, and they almost made it through, which was going to be pretty impressive.
Wando with the finish. That was crazy. But I mean, some players to look into in that lineup is that they just signed. For those of you that are Chivas or Liga MX fans, El Chofis, or como dicen, La Chofis, I think they call him, from Chivas over there in Chivas de Guadalajara, who I think will be playing the 10 or a winger for San Jose. They also have Christian Espinosa. They have the endless Wondolowski. They just brought in Eric Rometti from Atlanta, Jackson Ewell from that amazing USA U23 team. I'm just kidding. Jackson Ewell's a great player who we should have drafted instead of Joe Holland, side note, a long time ago. And they obviously have Osvaldo Alanis, Tommy Thompson. I mean, San Jose has a pretty exciting roster, in my opinion. Who knows where the heck they're going to stand up this year. But that's definitely going to be a matchup for the Dynamo, I think, for the first game.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty tough game for Dynamo, I feel like. And they just brought up some pretty good options for San Jose to try and pretty much try blow up the midfield to hopefully get through like FC Dallas did. And I feel like that's going to be one of the things San Jose is going to focus on going against the Dynamo. And the Dynamo, obviously, like, there's not many positives we can take out from the last scrimmage. So I'm expecting Tab to make the appropriate changes. I feel like he's gonna make a couple changes to the front. I feel like he might add Quintero at last and maybe swap him out like right after the second half. And it's obviously gonna depend on how they hold up against San Jose early on. But
yeah, I think that's the most important part. But I mean, I'm gonna give you mine, and then you give me yours. But with the players that we have available right now. Not our dream starting 11, but with the players we have available right now, who starts coming into this game? Maybe with some of the intel that we have from preseason and everything. For me, still Marco Maric in goal. Obviously, it would be nice to maybe see Michael Nelson win that position this year. But obviously, I don't care who's starting a goal as long as it's the best player that we have available. So everything points to Marco Maric right now.
Yeah.
Adam Lundqvist at left back. From obviously we don't have a lot of choices from center backs, but we could always put Zarek Valentin at center back or something. But I think for now sorry, I was getting a call there.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, so Lundqvist, Junkwell, Parker in the back, and Valentin. I think that's a given. Obviously we have Bizama, we have Hoffman there as well for backup. We have I think now for me where I would like to see this and for the Dynamo is I would like us to start Vera, Jones, and Memo is who I would want to see in this midfield. And then up top, I would want to see, if he's healthy, Darwin Quintero, Maxi Rudy, and Fafa Pico. That's what I would want to, 4-3-3 still. I think Memo and Darwin could switch a lot on the wing, so usually what we see with Tab is 1 number 6 and 2-8 and a double pivot 8, as they say. So the 2-8 in the midfield would be pressing a lot, which would be Memo and Vera in this case. But obviously, if there's a shift in the game, you could always see Memo go out on the left wing, where we've seen him a lot before, on the left or right wing, and then Darwin maybe come into the 10 role in the middle to disrupt the game a little bit.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I still think that Junqua should still, for the time being, stay paired up with Parker. I also think that for now, Memo should be starting over Corona. Only because I didn't like much of what I saw from the scrimmage, but obviously Corona has time to improve. But for the time being,
we know Corona's quality, but I still want to see Memo's still our guy.
No, for the time being, yeah, Memo's got to start, and obviously like my most favorite forward court being in my opinion, I want to see Quintero, Pico, and Rudy like up top. Like obviously Quintero, as of right now, like Quintero has to start if he's healthy or not, and yeah, like that's one of the things I'm hoping for the the season opener for Dynamo, and yeah, and do you want to say anything else before we head to the season opener, Tony?
Man, let's get behind this team this year. You know, it's going to be tough, and I'm really hoping for the best, praying for the best, and I don't know. Let's let ourselves be surprised a bit. I'm just hoping the games are a little bit easier to watch this year. I feel like, I mean, last year it was crazy with COVID. It was crazy with MLS is back, but everything that could possibly go wrong for the Dynamo last year seemed to happen. And, you know, maybe Tad Ramos now with a little bit more of a calmer year can really deliver some better results for this team. So I think let's not be too doom and gloom yet, even after that 3-0 loss to FC Dallas. And, you know, in Tab we trust.
Yeah, and like Tony said, there's a lengthy season ahead of us, but like we're both like the ultimate Dynamo Sims, so we are gonna support this team no matter what.
I do not like that. I'm a realistic fan.
Yeah,
I'll support them till the end, but yeah, obviously we'll see if anything happens. You know, there's always a wild card about. We know Brenner wants to sell the team. And as we know in MLS, that those things can kind of happen overnight sometimes. So I wouldn't be surprised. Don't bank on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a huge shakeup in ownership in the next year. So yeah, that's another story for another day.
Yeah, the 2-hour episode now. Yeah. But yeah, guys. This has been the second episode ever of Noodle Time. Like it's been a pretty interesting episode with everything that happened last week and heading into the new Dynamo season. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was Andres and Tony, and yeah, stay safe out there.
You guys, please give us your criticisms, your comments, anything you have to say. We're here. You know, hopefully keep doing our weekly podcast this year, but maybe try a Twitter Spaces or some kind of live show every now and then, just to keep it interesting. And if you guys have any recommendations for us, you know, we're always open. So thank you guys so much for listening.
Yeah, but yeah, we're hoping to use Twitter Spaces more often whenever Twitter rolls that out, like mostly as a post-game kind of thing, but we'll figure it out later. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in for our second episode ever. This was Tony and Andres, and of course, stay noodle.